Beethoven's life was hard since he was a child. His father forced him to play music when he saw the extraordinary abilities of little Beethoven. Aside from being her first teacher, his father Johann Van Beethoven was an alcoholic who tended to abuse Ludwig when he performed music. By the time Beethoven had grown up and had a great reputation in Europe, his deafness worsened, which plunged him into a tremendous depression. As far as is known, he never had a wife or children. However, women were not lacking in his love life. Although this did not mean that he achieved total fulfillment in his love life. He was rejected many times since he tended to fall in love with noble women and, being a commoner, he was rejected. In this video we will recount the women in the life of the greatest composer in all of history, and we will try to reveal who his immortal beloved was. But first, subscribe to the channel, give it a like and click the notification bell so you don't miss all our videos. Today we present Beethoven's love affairs and the mystery of his immortal beloved. His friend Ferdinand Ries wrote, Beethoven greatly enjoyed the company of women, especially those with a beautiful and youthful face. If we saw a beautiful young woman, he would turn around, look at her directly through his glasses. He fell in love often, but for a short time. First, while still living in Bonn, he was in love with Jeanette de Honrath and Eleanor Bruning. By the time he had moved to the cultural capital of Vienna in 1792, he fell in love with the daughter of his physician Teresa Malfetti. She played the piano, so Beethoven sent her several of his compositions to practice. Later on he asked for her hand in marriage. Sadly for his social position, the composer was rejected. This love affair has raised controversy among scholars, since it has been believed that the famous piece, For Eliza, had an error in the transcription, and that the dedication was actually for Teresa. This is believed since she kept the original manuscript of this work with Beethoven's autograph. Although there is also a theory that he was referring to Elisabeth Rockel, who was a great friend of the composer and who visited him on his deathbed at his request, where he gave him a lock of his hair and his pen to compose. Later, around the year 1800, he fell in love with Giulietta Guicciardi. In his dedication of the sonata that would later be known as Moonlight, he recalled the sweet moments that he lived by his side. The great conductor Daniel Barenboim has declared that the first movement of this sonata is a kind of funeral march, in clear reference to the sad end of his relationship with this beautiful woman. Later, he would be associated with a beautiful Hungarian countess named Anna Maria Erdődy. She was a brilliant pianist. In 1808, when she coincided with the genius composer, they held parties where he played the piano. She was described as someone very beautiful, petite and delicate. However, she suffered from an incurable disease that caused her to have swollen feet, which made her limp. In the year 1819, he sent her a canon as a New Year's greeting. He also dedicated the two trios for piano, Opus 70. Amelie Sebald was a beautiful Berlin singer for whom the composer felt a great attraction, as he himself would declare, if the moon shines as brightly as the sun tonight during the day, you will see the smallest of beings in your house. Bettina Brentano would come later. She was a writer friend of Goethe, and it is believed that Beethoven had affectionate feelings for her because of her statements. If God grants me a few more years, I must see you again, dear Bettina. This is what my inner voice tells me, which is never wrong. Minds can also love each other. Your most sincere friend and deaf brother, Beethoven. The Immortal Beloved. On the death of Ludwig van Beethoven, his friends Anton Schindler, Stefan Bruning and his brother Johann van Beethoven began to search for the bank values left by the composer. After an intense search, they found them together with his will and a passionate 10-page letter addressed his immortal beloved, written in pencil. Much data is missing, such as who it was addressed to. Therefore, it is still speculated who was Beethoven's great love. The two great candidates to be the mysterious immortal beloved of Beethoven according to specialists and researchers are Antony Brentano and Countess Josephine von Brunswick. Antony Brentano, daughter of an Austrian diplomat, art collector and secretary, under pressure from her father, married a very wealthy merchant in Frankfurt, 15 years older and who gave her 4 children. She traveled very often to Vienna, and it is believed that she met Beethoven in May 1810. She was the one who declared, "Beethoven walks like a god among mortals, his exalted attitude contrasts with worldly reality." He dedicated many works to her. The first version of his song Die Geliebte was presented to Antony. We found her lyrics in a corner of the manuscript. This first version was for voice, piano or guitar, being that she was a great guitarist. This is the only known work by Beethoven for guitar. He let her see his love in dedications. "Let me drink from your cheek the tear that fell from your placid eyes." Several of her sonatas were inspired by her, although the only complete and direct dedication was to the 33 variations on a Diabelli theme for piano. Respectfully dedicated to Frau Antony Brentano. This unfinished love forced Brentano to find solace in the philanthropy of the arts. In 1816, Beethoven sent him a copy of his portrait with the caption, "An engraving that represents my face, many people also see in it the reflection of my soul." Beethoven ended with his songs and Die Freien Geliebte, to a distant beloved. Specialist Maynard Solomon believes that this 6-song cycle is inspired by Brentano, although Beethoven could not expressly say so. Melancholic texts were only a reflection that the love life of the genius was a dark and lonely passage in his life. Some think that Brentano was the immortal beloved, for all that Beethoven composed for her. However, this has been denied since Beethoven's code of honor would not have allowed him to continue an affair with a married woman. Apart from that, for his meeting in Carlsbad, she was already pregnant. Beethoven was a very close friend of the whole family. He even dedicated a sonata to Maximiliane, the couple's daughter, so it is believed that even though the composer had feelings for Antony, he would not have crossed the line in respect of his family. Therese von Brunswick was a close lifelong friend of Beethoven. However, the one who completely stole his heart was her sister Josephine. This is known because Beethoven addressed 14 love letters to her between the years 1804 and 1807, where he called her his only beloved, and dedicated his song to her called, "Und die Hoffnung," to Hope Opus 32. In the winter of 1805, he wrote, "My feelings of love for you, dear Josephine, began to bloom within me and grew larger and larger." Josephine was married twice. Both were unhappy experiences for her. It seems that her happiest moments were with Beethoven in his piano lessons, since even one of her husbands took her children from her. However, her sister Therese was deeply disappointed that Josephine had finally rejected Beethoven due to family pressure, as he was a commoner. To which she declared, maternal love led her to renounce her own happiness. What could she not have done with this hero? Her first husband had taken her 4 children and her second husband abandoned her, leaving her in financial and health misery. She was trying to find the modus vivendi that would allow her to survive. According to Josephine's diary, he had a scheduled trip to Prague in the summer of 1812, while at the same time Beethoven was traveling to Teplice, via Prague, to meet his immortal beloved. With a new marital contract, her second husband left her again, now permanently, when their daughter Minona was born on April 8, 1813. This happened 9 months after Beethoven's supposed meeting with his immortal beloved. Apart from one of the reasons Josephine's husband's abandonment was because he believed that Minona was not his daughter. Could it be that Josephine was Beethoven's immortal beloved, and that the fruit of this torrid and stormy romance was a girl named Minona van Beethoven? Josephine died in total misery and without her family at the age of 42, being rejected even by her mother, who told her that all her problems had been her own fault. Beethoven composed in this same period his last piano sonatas, numbers 31 and 32, which some musicologists define as requiem, supposedly for the memory of Josephine, since they have reminiscences of the musical theme of Josephine, found in his work for piano, Andante Favori, which was Beethoven's declaration of love for Josephine. Until today, we cannot know for sure. There is no documentary evidence that confirms this theory 100%, however it is very likely that Josephine was the love of his life for the German composer. his immortal beloved. A love forbidden by the social class differences between the two lovers, we will always have the doubt of what could have happened if their love had been consummated. However, it leaves us with one of the greatest and most beautiful mysteries of music. Beethoven, the misunderstood genius who suffered from deafness and love, became the greatest icon of romanticism and music in the world. It changed the paradigm of how society views artists and their importance in humanity. What do you think? Who do you think was Beethoven's immortal beloved? Let us know in the comments, and remember to subscribe, share and like to continue creating the content that you like the most.